Prayer, please. Let us pray. Father in heaven, we thank you once again how you put your arms around and brought us together. We pray that you give us wisdom and knowledge to take care of the business of the city of Jacksonville and this residence. In the name of Jesus, we ask and pray, Lord. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Welcome to the May 1st City of Jacksonville City Council meeting. And we'll roll call, please.
Councilmember Dietz. Rupel.
Here.
McCleary. McCoy.
Here.
Ray.
Here.
LeBron.
Here.
Moss.
Here.
Twitty.
Here.
Kenman.
Here.
Mims.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
2 absent, sir.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum and we are good to go. Before you, you've got the minutes from the April 17th meeting. Be familiarizing yourself with those for approval upon next meeting. But right now, entertain a motion to accept and approve the minutes from the March 20th meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting those minutes, let it be done by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? All right, being the first day of the month, we do not have a consent agenda. You will have that at our next meeting. So we will move straight down into our general regular business. First of all, we've got some ordinances from a recommendation from Planning Commission. Ordinance 1782, reclassifying 3121 and 3125 North First Street from C2 to R3. Entertain a motion to place ordinance 1782 on first reading. We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kenman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance 1782, an ordinance reclassifying property in the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, amending ordinance numbers 213 and 238 in the land use map of the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
All right, any questions about this?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
I have questions about the emergency attached here. I did reach out to Mr. Dietz, since he is the sponsor, to ask him if there is an emergency, and he said no. So that's my question about it, as far as making sure we remove that emergency clause from this ordinance.
And so you're asking to remove the emergency clause, how come, what, for what?
Based on municipal league's definition for the criteria of an ordinance, for attaching an emergency clause, it must be for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. So when I spoke with the sponsor about this, he said that is not the case, and he doesn't need the emergency clause.
Okay. Then, is there any other discussion or question about this, or or we need to modify this, or keep going with the ordinance as is with the edit of removing the emergency clause on this?
I'm not the brightest star in the sky, but why does it, I'm confused on why this is a problem.
Well, one, the emergency clause is one of the most abused clauses added and attached to ordinances, and it's not for the preservation of public health or safety. So that a rezoning based on municipal league, and I did speak to them, is very seldom, if ever, an emergency.
Okay, but wonder if why does it matter in a situation like this if it's an emergency or not an emergency?
Well, if you look at it, if without the emergency, with the emergency attached, it passes sooner. Without it, it's 91 days before that actually goes into effect.
We actually have an ordinance that reduces that 30 days.
Either way, what I am asking is that we stop the abuse of the emergency clause.
Did the municipal league also tell you how often this is challenged in court?
I didn't ask them about the challenges. What they did bring forward is that it is one of the overused and abused clauses. It is overused and abused. So that's why I'm bringing it to the attention to make sure we're all educated to understand that they are the ones asking us to stop using the emergency clause when does not.
They have
Basically.
not reached out to me, so that's interesting. do
I
not
think
know
you
if
should just
they-
reach out to them.
No, I've discussed this with them.
Okay.
And I will say this, in these situations of these ordinances where you've got rezones and stuff coming from the planning commission, if that emergency clause is not put in place, then yes, whoever, if it's somebody building their house, if it's somebody who's trying to sell property, whatever they're trying to do, then we are telling them, you can't do anything, you have to freeze on all activity for 30 days, which could be very detrimental to somebody.
Is that the case for these?
I don't know in these situations, I'm just saying that could be a factor in that. There's a reason why emergency clause would be put in, because it could be directly impacting
I
somebody with a
understand.
financial situation
Mhm.
like that.
So reaching out to the person that actually sponsored the ordinance to ask them, and him saying that it actually isn't an emergency, I think that warrants removal of the emergency clause if Mike Deeds, who isn't here, but I did speak with him twice about the 4 ordinances that are on the agenda for today, and he said none of those are emergencies. So where does that come into play if the sponsor of the ordinance is saying that it isn't an emergency?
Yeah.
I would like to ask the city attorney, why does it matter? Just, this is a word that we're kind of stuck on for some reason. No one has not approved this on the council, so I'm trying to figure out and learn myself, why is this even an issue?
Great question.
You don't know the answer to that?
Because the municipal league told you it was an issue. They tell that the new elected officials all take the same class. I took the same class. And I think the term abuse, people were putting it on every single ordinance, not the ones where it was required for a real estate transaction or for the peace, privacy, health, whatever the community. It was on every single ordinance. That's what they were trying to prevent.
So let me make sure I understand. You're telling me that the emergency clauses attached to the rezoning of the properties listed on the ordinances that are on this agenda are for the preservation of health and safety of the public?
For the ordinances or ordinances? I think it's ordinances. Yes.
All of them are for the preservation of the health and safety of the public?
Well, if you said you spoke to Dietz and he said that it was not there, that's not my understanding. But if that's what you're saying Mike Dietz said, just like you were saying the municipal league says that we need to stop doing this, then I will defer to you because clearly
Okay.
you are the expert on this.
Okay. Well, then I would say that we should just remove it.
Great.
No, may I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I've been here all this time and we never had any problem with declaring emergency because sometimes they come up with a bank loan, like you said, sometimes they come up with some kind of issue that you have to do it instead of bringing it back. You already got the emergency clause in, and you can carry the business out instead of having to wait. I see no problem with this emergency clause in the declaration of ordinance. That's just one of the lessons, I took the same with the class in the municipal league, that's just one of the lessons they teach.
Normally, but is this one just for reclassification of this? Do
Just
we
the
need it for that?
Yeah,
If we don't need it, we don't.
zoning from C2 to R3. That's what this is.
In what instance would you need to have this if we wasn't around to get anything done on this one? This, on all 4? All 4 of them are just with the reclassification?
Which means whoever's developing or building or whatever they're doing, they have to wait for 30 days before they could continue or proceed with where they are.
Stephanie, could you explain to us what the C2 to R3, what is each one of those for the public?
Or you want Adam to-
Adam?
Thank you.
So your question was C2 to R3. So that is commercial, retail to multifamily. So this is surrounded by R3. This was a house place acquired by a developer who's developing the lot on the Warford and North First. They finally secured like the loan residence that was there, so we're cleaning it up.
What was the commercial one that was there? What was that?
I don't know why it was C2, honestly. Everything around it's is a residential in some capacity. Everything on the east side there is a multifamily.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
My name is Rochelle Britton. I sold to the developer, I believe it's the same developer, the house at 3121 North First last year, last fall, late last summer. That was a house, that was a house, there's always been a house. There's always been a house. I don't know, apparently there was some other zoning plan that made it C2. He told me at the beginning his plan was to tear down the house and expand the apartment complex he owns next door. So I cashed it out, I went ahead and sold it to him, took the money, moved to an apartment on the west side of Jacksonville. And so I can tell him, I can vouch for I can at least somewhat vouch for what's going on here. That they're never commercial, he's just trying to make it R3 so that he can build his so he can build the apartments, tear down the house and build the apartments as he has planned. I think he already done some dirt work on 3125 next door.
Yeah.
That was my neighbor in the beginning, he bought that house, tore it down, and now he's got 3121 as well, he's trying to go ahead with his apartments.
That's not the question. That's not the question.
No.
Well, she
no,
was just
No,
explaining.
she was just saying what it was,
She's
yeah.
just explaining.
Yeah, there's no,
I can't say as to whether or not, I can't speak for him, so I can't
Yeah.
say as whether or not
There's
it's an
no-
emergency for him, but.
yeah, there's no question about what he's doing. That's not an issue. He's fine with this process. So this is coming from a recommendation from the planning commission, so everything is good there.
That's, yeah, I mean, there was no, I was just trying to give some background, what I could.
Thank you.
On what's going on.
Thank you.
I just happened to show up here for another reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I do have another question for you.
Yes.
So if we take the emergency clause off, these people have to wait 30 extra days
To do what?
to do any construction work whatsoever?
I don't feel we should do that.
Well, we might not here be unable to explain his side.
All right. If we're going to amend this to remove the emergency clause, we need a motion to do that, followed by a second, and then roll call vote. Do I have a motion to remove the emergency clause?
I make a motion that we remove the emergency clause.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Just on this one?
That will be just on this one, yes.
Yeah, on this one I second.
Okay, then roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Rupel,
No.
McCleary,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Ray,
No.
LeBron,
No.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
No.
Kinman. No. Mims,
No.
the noes have it.
Okay, so, the motion to amend this to remove the emergency clause is defeated. So at this point in time, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1782 on first reading and suspend the rules in place on second reading. We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel,
Aye.
McCleary, McCoy,
Aye.
Ray, LeBron,
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman, Mims.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1782 on second reading and suspend the rules in place on third and final.
Second.
Motion and multiple seconds. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel,
Aye.
McCleary, McCoy,
Aye.
Ray, LeBron,
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman, Mims.
Aye.
All right, then entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1782 on this date. Motion
Second.
and second. roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right, then entertain motion to attach and adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
No.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Nay.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right, well, how,
Back.
total vote. Okay. All right, that is now passed, so 1782 is now put into place. Next item is ordinance 1783, reclassifying parcel located at Dupree Stone Addition from C2 to PUD. Entertain a motion to place ordinance 1783 on first reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1783, an ordinance reclassifying property in the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, amending ordinance numbers 213 and 238 in the land use map of the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
All right, any questions on, Councilmember Moss?
Thank you, Mayor. Adam, can you explain what PUD is?
Absolutely. So PUD is a planned unit development, which is kind of unique. We don't do a lot of those here in Jacksonville, but what it does, it allows the applicant to submit a site plan along with the rezone application that tries to demonstrate a somewhat unique design. And say on a lot like this, it's got kind of a funky corner that there's some non-conforming conditions wrapped up in the site. And so instead of trying to present, a pure rezone and ask for, a lot of variances and waivers and so forth, the PUD kind of allows that applicant to wrap all that up into a site plan that demonstrates that, it's a functional design, has some unique characteristics, and it requires them to do a lot more design work on the front side, but the benefit is they get those non-conforming conditions wrapped up in a rezone. Rezones are one of those things that we can't really add. You don't really have such thing as a conditional rezone. You can't, we give you the rezone, but you got to build, a chicken coop or something. So this is a way to get your conditions out of a rezone and a site plan all wrapped up into one. But that's what it is.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Adam, since Councilmember Dietz is not here, can you speak about how the any calls or complaints about this when it came to Planning Commission to begin with? Was it okay across the board for those guys?
Yeah, we didn't have any calls for or against, and it was advertised properly. What they have there, it was a pretty, it was a pretty standard kind of a townhouse type enclosed development with a nice fence around. It kind of has that whole Stone Dupree intersection, non-intersection, cross connection with 161. That's kind of a weird animal. So they gave some flexibility to work with the engineers to yes,
So they'll understand what we're talking about.
right, yep, yeah. So they gave some flexibility to work with that, but yeah, the Planning Commission liked what the plan they presented.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm still going to bring back the fact that here's another one with an emergency clause. That's number 2 for the day. And again, this is not for the preservation of the health and safety of the public.
Since we're
May I ask, I'm sorry,
using this as an education opportunity, did you alert the media before you met with Councilmember Dietz?
And meet with Councilmember Dietz.
You spoke to him on the phone?
Spoke to him on the phone.
So anytime two voting members of a governing body discuss something they're going to vote on,
I
legally the
understand.
press has to be notified.
Mhm.
Okay. But you didn't do that?
No, I did
Okay.
not.
Just thought I didn't know if you had that class at the municipal.
All right.
I'm very well aware of how that works, actually. when you speak to emergency?
No, because I'm not a voting member.
I think that was your way of trying to take a jab. It wasn't necessary.
No, I just wanted to let you know.
All right, we're going to continue on with where we are. Councilmember Kinman, you had a question.
I think my question is, why does it really matter? Why would we want to hold anyone trying to develop in our city 90 days, 30 days, if everything's been approved by the Planning Commission and it's come toward us and it's all being approved, why would anyone in our city want to hold that up?
Why would anyone in our city not want citizens to be able to speak up if they have a problem with the rezoning? When you attach emergency clauses, you also prevent that from happening. If they
But it
want to
went
come
through the
forward, you're
planning
shortening
commission
that window.
first.
I was at that meeting, I sat at the planning commission.
We know you were.
But again, I still say that if the sponsoring person that said that that is not needed, why are we attaching it? If we pull our ordinances, look at the percentage of those that have an emergency clause attached. So I am saying that we actually use emergency clause a lot. I've gone through ordinance after ordinance, and there is an emergency clause on just about every single one.
But with our sponsor, Mike
So,
Deeds, not being here to
It's hard to
change-
say.
Yeah, it's hard to change it.
I
He's not
understand.
here to say what he's doing, so.
And
It's not hard to
That's-
change it if we know to do the right thing and we do.
Bringing clarity to that, Councilmember Dietz's name is on this because he is the council member to the Planning Commission.
Right.
It is the Planning Commission that has actually submitted these. It is not Councilmember Dietz as an individual who's brought this up.
My point was, he's not here to
He's not
say
here.
one
But
way or
my
the other.
question becomes, after that then, did the planning commission, I didn't hear them say in that meeting that it was an emergency. They're just asking for the rezoning. That's all they had. It was approved in that planning commission meeting. There was no discussion about how soon, what they did discuss their plans and some details around that, but not one person mentioned anything about an emergency clause. Anything about attaching it. The standard in your ordinances when you write them. However I say it. Thank you.
In doing this, I will say that when the Planning Commission is meeting and recommending whatever it is, if it's a rezone, whatever they're sending our way, they are not sending it thinking, oh, okay, it's gonna be 30 more days or whatever it is. They are okaying this person, this developer, for whatever that they're building, to proceed with legally and in the proper way with what's going on, with what they're wanting to build. And, if anybody else, if I am an individual who's trying to build a house, build an apartment complex, build this multi-unit place, and then I found out now I just have to sit, or if I've already got a construction loan going and now sitting 30 days idle and having to pay a lot out of this, that's not a good thing. That's not a good way to do business, I see it as a good way to treat our citizens who are trying to make an improvement on the city.
So everyone that brings forward a rezoning is planning to start work immediately, not just rezoning so that they can begin work at the appropriate time. So does that mean that we need to make sure that they're properly educated on due processes and things of that nature so that they know that when they bring it forward? It's another thing to where we circumvent processes so that we can get something done sooner instead of following through on those. So I'm trying to gain an understanding here as to, are these people educated when they bring them forward, what the process is for that? Because things are in place for a reason. So if there's an attachment of a clause, we don't want to overuse it to where then it's just null and void, that we're just constantly using something. Do people understand what the processes are in place for when they come and ask for a rezoning? They already know that. If they're educated on that piece, if the planning commission is educated on that piece, when that person is coming forward, should that be explained in that meeting that, okay, once this is gone before the council, which may be 2 meetings out, it just depends on when it's going to hit the agenda, that this is what the process is for you getting that approval. Are they informed of that, Mr. Mayor?
I cannot speak for the Planning Commission on that.
Yeah. And also to go back to me meeting with Mr. Deeds, the understanding is as long as we're not discussing something and I'm trying to talk to him about how to vote, there is no problem with me connecting with him. So I just wanted to make that clear.
You were talking about something the governing board was going to vote on.
Would emergency clause stop this person from, if we didn't change it, it would stop this person from going forward?
Correct. They would have to wait for 30 days before they could,
Oh, okay.
could continue with anything.
Understand.
So is there a work in progress for them? Are they working on something right now?
I mean, they've submitted plans. This is a plan of development, so they've submitted plans.
They
It's
could-
not
they-
slated for
yeah.
right now?
I can't speak
We
for the
don't-
applicant.
We don't know that on that, so, because they can't do anything until this is approved.
Yeah.
Still say we could use it a lot here.
Your opinion is noted there. So to entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1783 on first reading and suspend the rules in place on the second. We have motions there, second.
Second.
We have a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
All right, entertain a motion, excuse me, to approve ordinance 1783 on second reading and suspend the rules and place on third and final. We have motion.
Second.
And second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
Entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1783 on this date. Roll call.
Second.
We have-
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
All right, entertain a motion to attach the emergency clause.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
No.
McCleary. McCoy.
No.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
All right, ordinance 1783 is enacted. Moving on, ordinance 1784, reclassifying 7430 TP White Drive from C3 to C4. Entertain a motion to place ordinance 1784 on first reading. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1784, an ordinance reclassifying property in the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, amending ordinance numbers 213 and 238 in the land use map of the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
All right, any questions or?
I got one for Adam.
Yes, Adam, Councilmember McCleary's got one for you.
Hey, Adam, the only difference between C3 and C4 is just the size of the plate space?
It's primarily open display. So C4 allows for a thing like a car lot. It's a little bit more intensive use. You know, it could have some open display. So anything along the freeway corridor is by all means, certainly we feel is applicable to an open display type thing, because that's where people want to go. They want to get seen. So we felt it was perfect fit. Yep.
Other questions, comments?
My comment remains the same. We have number 3 here with an emergency clause attached.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1784 on first reading and suspend the rules of place on second. With motion, our first and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
All right, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1784 on second reading and suspend the rules and place on third and final. We have motion and a second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray. LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty. Kinman. Mims.
Entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1784 on this date. Motion and multiple seconds, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
And entertain a motion to attach the emergency clause.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary.
No.
McCleary.
He said aye.
Okay. McCoy.
No.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right. 1784 is now enacted. Moving on to ordinance 1785, reclassifying 420 West Hickory from R0 to R2. Entertain a motion to place 1785 on
Second.
first reading. We have a motion, wait a minute, Kevin, hold on, because we've got an actual motion on the floor. We have a motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCleary. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Ordinance number 1785, an ordinance reclassifying property in the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, amending ordinance numbers 213 and 238, the land use map of the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Before discussion, Councilmember McCleary, you would like to speak. We had to follow that for procedure. So.
I coached two little teams, and we had a storm yesterday, and I gotta go.
McCleary, I need you to use your mic.
I coached two little flag football teams, and they at the park waiting on me, and I gotta go, and I'm sorry. If that bothers anybody, I'm sorry, but I gotta go. Almost already gotta go.
So, two,
You got enough?
we're still,
What time is it?
we're still good. Yeah, we
Yeah,
still,
we've
yeah,
got enough.
we still have, we're good.
We've got enough.
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
Go take care of it, Kevin.
All right, questions, comments on discussion for 1785?
Adam, on an R2, this is an R1, a 0, it's going from a single house to a duplex, is that what this is?
Well, it's a little bit more than that. It's actually,
Okay.
it was actually an R0 with, I think it had a conditional use to it. So and pass that down, let's see. It was a multi-use setup. It had a residence and had a salon in it, I believe, at one time. And that they went from a commercial, a C2 zone, to a R0 zone with that multi-use conditional use back in 2016. In my opinion, that was a mistake doing it that way, because they could have just kept it C2 with conditional use. Anyway, so it's always had a multifamily or a duplex setup on that, and I guess a new owner or something, he's just realized that and trying to make it right. But they're passing around a picture of it. I mean, it's obviously, got
The picture that's
multiple
going around
units.
is the side view of it.
Right.
The front is the 420.
The front is the 420.
And then
That's
on the
what's the
side is
address.
416.
Right.
So he's already made it into that?
Yeah, it's been,
Trying to make it legal?
yeah, it's been that way for years. I mean,
Okay.
it was, that's the way it was left, the last time the planning commission took action on it. It was set up for a beauty salon, for
He's
a
just trying to
commercial in
make
the
it
back, and
legal now,
so,
gotcha.
yeah, so, and at some point in time, they changed the beauty salon to residential. So this is just kind of cleaning up what was there. Kind of an
Thank
odd
you.
thing, sure.
Any comments from public during the planning commission?
Uh,
Came to your office?
No, did not have anything.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1785 on first reading and suspend the rules in place on second.
So move.
Motion.
Second.
And second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
I'm sorry. McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1785 on second reading and suspend the rules in place on third and final reading.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right, entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1785 on this date.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right, then entertain a motion to attach the emergency clause to
So moved.
1785. Motion
Question.
and second.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Considering that this one is basically just for them to, because they wanted to just make sure, since it was already basically set up the way that it is, that they properly zone it, why do we need an emergency clause here?
Adam, would you?
Because this one, they're just looking to,
I would say if any of them need an emergency clause,
This
it
one would.
absolutely would be this one, because you're technically not legal until it's passed, so the use is already there in place.
Okay. There is a motion and a second for the emergency clause, so roll call.
Councilmember Rupel,
Aye.
McCoy,
no.
Ray,
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
All right, ordinance 1785 is enacted. Moving on to ordinance 1786, regulating location of in-ground and above-ground swimming pools. Entertain a motion to place 1786 on first reading. We have a motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rupel,
Aye.
McCoy,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss,
Aye.
Twitty,
Aye.
Kinman.
Aye.
Mims.
Aye.
Ordinance number 1786, an ordinance regulating the location of in-ground, above-ground swimming pools within the city of Jacksonville, Arkansas, creating municipal code 805021, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Councilmember Twitty, this is your ordinance. Would you
Yes,
like
sir, it
to
is.
speak to it?
We had a situation and found out that we did not have anything stating where you could put a swimming pool in your yard. And we have one set up in a driveway, doesn't have anything telling us that we cannot put it in a front yard. So for the safety of the public, we are asking to put all swimming pools with the proper fencing, which will come later, in your backyard. So,
Can I say for clarification, y'all got it in the ordinance you've seen. This is specifically for pools deeper than 24 inches. So
right,
this is
we're not talking about little
excluding
kiddie, wadey
or
pools. That's what it
anything like
says
that.
also in
So-
there, in the details.
We do have an ordinance that requires fencing around swimming pools.
Right.
The actual fencing itself will come later.
Right.
So, questions, comments?
Now, this is actually a good example of attaching an emergency clause, because it's for the preservation of the health and safety of the public, so.
Any other comments?
I just ask, maybe Ryan, Captain Wright can answer this question. Are we, the people that are in violation of this now, how long will they have to remedy that issue?
No.
No.
No, they've already got a court date. That,
It's not retro.
yeah, that's,
I mean, there's an emergency clause, so as soon as it's signed, it's ready to go, so. You all give it 30
But
days?
for, and I can speak to this, for the house in which this is an issue, they have actually been cited by code enforcement, and they are waiting on a court date now. So it is, nothing else can happen with this situation until it goes before the judge. And their plea in arraignment, I believe, is June 24th on that. So, yes.
Are any fines associated with this, possibly, potentially?
Yeah, come on up, yeah.
Because if so, we can attach an emergency clause.
So as far as actual fines go, that'll be up to what the judge issues. I believe it can be up to, what, $250, I believe is what she can go up to on Lowe's. So, and that's $250 per day that it's up.
When someone moves, say someone moves to Jacksonville, they're not aware of this ordinance, somebody reports there's a pool in the front yard, how many days do you all give them to have that removed? Is that like a 7 to 10 day window?
Usually it's a 10-day window. We do 10 days for the purpose of, once we mail out a letter, it gives them 3 days to receive it, so they can, and then we count 10 days from the day we mail the letter.
I see the heavy safety issue in this.
Mm.
Because some people may abuse that and take it down on day 10.
Yeah,
And it's, I mean, the tragedy waiting to happen with as many kids we have walking neighborhoods and streets, they just may go jump in a pool if they don't know how to swim, and that's,
absolutely.
so. Thank you.
But if they have a fence around in their front yard, this or just around the pool itself, would that be in compliance?
So ultimately, what initially occurred, and the reason the initial ordinance was changed, people were putting swimming pools up in their front yard, and they were following what the ordinance said by putting up like a chicken wire fence in their front yard. So the current ordinance now, as far as the fencing goes, says I believe it has to be a 4-foot tall fence, and it has to be a self-closing gate that self-locks. So it has to self-latch. So ideally, when we made that ordinance, typically those type of fences are the ones that are around your backyard. So now there's, I guess, ways that they can put up a different fence, but it's not going to be a sound fence if it's just halfway stuck up in their front yard like that.
Looking at the situation that we have right now, obviously, we definitely need this ordinance, but this particular person put the pool up and filled it mostly up, and then we're told, well, the fence is coming in Friday, which Friday it's still not there. So if the fence would have been put up first, and then the pool, then they wouldn't have been fined, or, you know, it had been within our code. But seeing that and seeing the danger of, you know, like you said, a child just walking up and saying, hey, there's nobody home, let's jump in, and then there's a drowning, there definitely needs to be where we have them in the backyard. We're not talking about little kiddie wadey pool.
Right.
You know,
So,
little kids.
but we're not saying that they can't have a pool in their front yard. They just have to have it fenced in and locked up.
As it is
Well,
right now, that
that's
is
what
what
it
it
is
is.
now.
But
It is.
this ordinance, it would not allow a pool in a front yard. So it would have to be in the rear, or not in front of the rear face of the house. So basically the side front yard would not be allowed. It would have to be in a backyard, secured with fence around it.
And these are applying to the 3, 4, 5 foot deep pools versus the
I said,
1 to 2
kiddie
foot
pool,
kiddie
you know.
pool that you'd have a 2 or 3 year old out there playing in. So
To clarify, this ordinance has really nothing to do with the current situation.
No.
no, this won't remedy the current situation. That's already been dealt with and is waiting for a court date.
If anyone, because I feel like I've seen them around town. If somebody has a pool in their front yard right now, properly fenced in, will they be in violation if this is approved?
If it is approved and there is a pool in the front yard, yes, they will be in violation.
Even if it's fenced in with all the correct?
Yes, because I believe this ordinance, the exact wording in it says you can't have one in the front yard. Is that correct?
Well, you can't have one in the side yard, and the one that prompted this to occur has one in the side yard.
Correct.
That would also be in violation according to what you just said, but it's not, and this ordinance is not retro.
Yeah, anybody would be
Anyone
grandfathered
that has
in.
anything that is existing outside of what this ordinance is going to allow currently right now, it would be considered grandfathered, because it already exists, and you can't write legislation, special legislation, to target people. So
Right.
you
I mean, as far,
couldn't do anything about that.
what's that?
You couldn't do anything about anything that is currently existing out of code.
That's correct, but we only have one complaint so far. So, I mean, that's
Right.
that's the only issue that we
It's
found.
not an issue.
Right.
But just to clarify.
But, and yes, according to the ordinance, it said it must be located no more forward than the rear face of the residence. So that's indicating that it will have to be in the backyard. If it's in a front yard and we determine it from this day forward, then they will be in violation even if there's a fence up. So,
That does answer my question. Was that your question too?
That's the same question, yes.
I think I'm
So
good.
I'm ready.
That helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Wright. Yes, sir. Any other questions, discussion, comments? If not, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1786 on first reading and suspend the rules in place on second reading.
Second?
Motion and a second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1786 on second reading and suspend the rules in place on third and final.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 1786
So moved.
on this date. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
Then entertain a motion to attach the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call.
Councilmember Rupel.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
LeBron.
Aye.
Moss.
Aye.
Twitty.
Aye.
Kinman. Mims.
Aye.
All right, 1786 is therefore enacted. Next, ask Robert Birch if you would come up, please. We've got an update from him on our Economic Development Office.
First, I just want to say that I have a Razorback baseball game to watch, so they're playing Texas right now, so I hope that doesn't offend anybody. Actually, what I'm going to give the update on tonight is some items from the legislative session that the mayor had me kind of keep an eye on and look through. And there it is. So I put on your desk each slide a list of a lot of the ordinances I went through, and some of them I'm very familiar with, some of them I'm a little have a little bit of knowledge on, but if there's anything that you want, or if any of the citizens of Jacksonville need some questions on some of this legislation, we've already put it out in a press release earlier this month to call my office, and I'd be happy to meet with them and talk with them to discuss what some of these mean, because there was some legislation that was honestly downright silly, proposed out of another part of the state that was going to have dramatic effects on the rest of the state. Fortunately, the really difficult ones did not pass, and I think all the mayors here were in constant communication, hoping that they didn't, and fortunately they did not. So if you will, I guess, look at your screens, this is pretty much an overview. I also got some help from Mark Perry's office with some of this. There are a couple of economic development features in this that are going to be coming up in the future. One is going to be on the 2026 ballot for an election for economic development districts, which will be fantastic for us. It gives us the freedom to set up some districts that really can help revive areas. I've already started looking at spots to pick, and it's a very good act that they put together, because you can actually even combine this with the county or with other cities that you're close to, and make kind of a larger area out of it if need be. Some of the details are still, are kind of like anything that gets passed in the state legislature. Some of the details are to come, but this will be on the 2026 ballot, and it is, I can't remember all the numbers for these, so I apologize. It is on. It is SJR 15, the proposed constitutional amendment of economic development districts. I put an overview of it in the packet that I gave each of you. Again, if you have any questions, please ask. But if there's any that you see on there that you have some questions about, one that I did want to bring up that Adam and I were over here talking about is, and Adam, you may be better to talk about it than I am, is if an area is, take for instance, zoned, what was the one earlier, R3? Everything there is R3, the master plan's R3, but there's a C2 in the middle of it. It gives the planning department the ability, and we would have to write the ordinances to do it, but it gives the planning department the ability to make that change and submit it to council, as opposed to going through the planning commission and just basically taking extra time. Because with a lot of these issues, time is money. And it will help us be a more proactive city. It will help all cities, honestly, because it is statewide, but it will help us be more proactive in making some of these changes that don't need to go through this longer process. But that was passed statewide. But I'm always open for questions if there's anything that you guys have. And if you want to take it and absorb it and have me come back and go over them, I'd be more than happy to do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. It's a lot of information. Trust me, it's fried my brain the entire week. Economic development wise, we continue to work on projects. One of the biggest things that was passed in this is actually something that I personally went to lobby for with a lot of other economic developers. And that was originally, it was SB 307. It is the Generating Jobs Act, which I was able to bring up a specific instance to Jacksonville that cost us a project. That a lot of these projects that are coming in are heavy on power. And the way it stands right now, if a company comes in and says, all right, we need just a massive amount of power, when can you get it to us? I can't give them an answer. Entergy can't give them an answer. The state can't give them an answer. What this what this act has done is, again, sped that process up a little bit. It still leaves all the current protections in. There was fear that it was going to cause a lot of big rate changes. So what happens is when they have to do a large investment for an energy project, if they have to build a substation, that cost does get passed on to the ratepayers. The way it was done, it was passed on at the end after the project was completed, and it was one big rate increase. The way they're doing it with this is it is small increments throughout the project, which in turn saves money on borrowing to cover these costs, which actually makes the project cheaper, which will keep the rates from going up even more. So it was really a little bit misconstrued in some. There was one amendment that was added to it that did extend the Public Service Commission's time to look at each one of these deals. That was a point of contention a little bit. And it did pass, and it is a very good thing. We lost a project in our industrial park because we could not get them an answer on power. And they're only going to wait for so long. And when you can't give it, they're going to go find somewhere that will. And it's a nationwide problem. Our energy infrastructure nationwide needs a massive overhaul. I think everybody probably pretty much knows that if you've paid attention, to the news lately. But this at least gives us a roadmap where we can give them a time so they can start planning their project. And I'll use another project as an example. When we had conversations with, I won't say who it is because, no, they've announced they're at the port now. We actually were in conversations with Amazon to build on our 220 acres. It was very similar to land that they built on in North Little Rock. They came out, they dug test holes, they were excited about it, but because we couldn't give them a quick enough answer on the utility upgrades for power, they went to the port and paid a whole lot more money to go to the port. And I mean a whole lot. You're talking $15,000 to $20,000 an acre to up to $50,000 an acre. But that's the difference in having the power all there. They had the needs that they had, and the way that Amazon works is if you have to pause a project, it gets passed, they go on to the next one. If they're planning to put a facility here and it's not going to work out, they have a list and it's big, and they will just go to the next project, and that one goes on the back burner. And once it goes on the back burner, it may not happen. And that is the way it is with a lot of companies. So this bill is specifically targeted to help us overcome that challenge, because we can't overcome the challenge that we have to build out more power infrastructure, but now we can at least give a timeline and a date. So I'm trying to think if there's any other that are really there's also one that passed for industrial development districts, which would be great for our industrial park. It's one that I will send you more information on because it's a little bit in depth, but it gives us, it's what the Little Rock Port does for that whole port project area. They have control of the property out there. They have control of how it's marketed and everything, and it really helps the speed of bringing business in. with them at the point. These districts will be actually governed by a 3-person body that will be elected on 3-year terms. And so there's a lot to hash out in that, but I'll follow up with more detailed information on it. And there is detailed information in there, but you'll probably need more than what's in there. As far as economic development goes for us locally, we have a couple restaurants that are going to be coming on board soon. Again, can't say what. They're going to be local, and they're going to be. I'm excited about them at least. But as you can tell, I like restaurants and I like food. So we're continuing to work in our industrial park with SIG. We are continuing to work with other customers that are wanting to come in. Again, the issue in our industrial park right now is even with the Air Force Base is power. And we're working with energy to do the best that we can do to forecast what we're going to need and what needs to be built out. But to give you an example of part of the problem also, the company that we were working here from basically the time I started found out that they would have to build a $20 million substation. So you add that to a $300+ million project, and that pushes it to those limits of a no-go. So we've got to get ahead of these things and get these things built. And it's not only for these companies that are coming in. It is going to be energy security for our city, because the more substations that you can play off of each other, if one goes down, you can shift to another. You can make it some redundancies in our power that really helps keep our city safe. And but if anybody's got any questions, I'll answer them. If not, feel free to call me anytime. All right.
Questions for Robert?
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
And go Hogs.
Yeah, go Hogs. Coming up next, our next regularly scheduled meeting is for May 15th, but there is a conflict that night because that is Jacksonville High School's graduation. And so the calendar this month actually works out very well for us by having 5 Thursdays. So we are actually moving this meeting from the 15th to the night of the 22nd. So for the public, to let y'all know that, council members, mark your calendars that we will be meeting on the 22nd instead of the 15th, which also goes to our June 19th meeting. 2 things actually. One, that is Juneteenth, and all city offices will be closed that day anyway because it is a federal holiday. But also, 9 out of 10 council members that serve here will be attending the Arkansas Municipal League's summer conference, which is going on during that time. So we will not have a meeting on the 19th. So y'all can mark your calendars for that. Any other questions, announcements?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Those were actually my 2 announcements for today, was for us to decide if we wanted to move that meeting, because Dr. Oa did share that we are invited to that graduation next week. So thank you for that. But that was those 2 announcements that I brought forward to bring up today. Also, there on May 17th, the NAACP is hosting a community health fair. And it's on May 17th, which is a Saturday. I think all of council, everyone up here has been invited. It is at 424 Church Street here in Jacksonville. I think we'll have our officers, fire department, Unity Health, and a few others that will be in attendance. But it's a community event, and we want to see as many people out as possible to support this event. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
I'd like to say thank you to the leadership class number 3 for attendance tonight.
I have one announcement, I guess.
Councilmember Mims.
May 13th will be the senior walk where they go to the elementary schools, and they are adding the Senior Citizens Center this year. So they will be walking through there. And then they will come down Main Street for the senior parade on the buses. So we invite the public to come out that day.
Do we have an estimated time?
Normally it's around 11 a.m.
Okay. Thank you. Right. All right, and with that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we're done.